There are three basic ways of approaching religion. There's polytheism, there's henotheism, and then there's monotheism. Polytheism is the belief that there are many gods out there who are worthy of worshiping. Henotheism is the belief that there are many gods out there, but there is only one or a limited few who are worthy of worshiping. And then monotheism is the belief that there is only one God, and any other gods out there that people acknowledge are figments of their imagination and false. The world the Bible was born into was polytheistic. There may have been a short period of time in Egypt where Egyptians were monotheistic, but even if that was the case, everyone else in the ancient world, every other nation and tribe, were polytheists. Every single one. The Jewish faith and then the Christian faith would eventually embrace an unyielding form of monotheism. The basic creed of Judaism is known as the Shema from Deuteronomy 6:7, and it goes like this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. In Ephesians 4:5 from the New Testament, we find there is one Lord, one faith, one baptism. There is one God and Father of all. But just because Judaism and Christianity today are uncompromisingly monotheistic doesn't mean that we got there directly and in one foul swoop. There was a long road from polytheism to monotheism, and the road ran through henotheism. And in fact, the artifacts of henotheism can be seen in the Bible over and over again. For example, in Exodus chapter 12, verse 12, we hear God say, "On all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments." God doesn't say that the gods of Egypt are false and made up. God says that he's going to judge them. In Psalm 82, God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. In Psalm 89, "For who in the skies can be compared to the Lord? Who among the heavenly beings is like the Lord, a God to be feared in the council of the holy ones and awesome above all who are around him?" Psalm 95, "For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods." Psalm 97, "All worshippers of images are put to shame, who make their boast of worthless idols. Worship him, all you gods." I mean, right there, the psalmist is imploring the other gods to worship Israel's God. You might also remember in the beginning of the book of Job, God is convening a heavenly council. He's in charge, of course, but there are other beings there. Is Judaism and Christianity then henotheistic? Of course not. Not at all. The scriptures and the development of the two faiths start in one place and then clearly move to monotheism. There's a clear movement from there to here. But along the way from there to here, we moved through henotheism, and we can still see the shadows of it in the long story of the Bible. So, Moses came down the mountain with the tablets of the Ten Commandments that God had etched with his own finger. And when Moses arrived at the base of Mount Sinai, holding the commandments, he found the Israelites in the process of breaking the first two commandments. He gets down there and is like, what is going on? And they give him some lame excuse about waiting too long for him to come back down the mountain. Like they had ants in their pants. And so obviously what you do when you have ants in your pants is you make a golden calf and you worship it. The first two commandments are, "You shall have no other gods before me," and "You shall not make for yourself an idol." The way that first commandment is phrased has made it the subject of lots of discussion through the years. It doesn't say, "You shall have no other gods," period. Which is, of course, usually how we interpret it to mean. But it literally says, "You shall have no other gods before me." A serious case could be made, and is made, by looking at the cultural situation of the ancient world, that what any reasonable person back then would have heard this commandment say is, "Have no other gods before me." Like, sure, you're going to have other gods, just not any gods before me. Scholars argue that any reasonable person back then would have read it like this because it was the absolute standard practice. Of course, no matter how you slice it, polytheism or henotheism, when Moses makes it to the bottom of Mount Sinai, there's no doubt that the Israelites have found other gods and put them before the God who saved them from slavery in Egypt. The first commandment is broken. Aaron and the Israelites had gotten anxious, and the result of their anxiety is that they sculpted an idol and worshipped it before worshiping the God who had just freed and rescued them from Egypt. Before the commandments are a day old, an hour old, the first commandment is broken in kind of dramatic fashion. Here's some questions to think about. Does the move from polytheism to henotheism to monotheism surprise you at all? And what are you guilty of putting before God?